Man, it is good to see you. Welcome to my podcast.
Game on, man. I am fired up. It's been a while.
It has. You've been busy head down building cool stuff. I have been busy head down trying to tell a story of kind of similar stuff, which is interesting. Our paths have intersected again. I've been telling a story about toxic homes and all the shit that's been dragged into our homes. And really, it's almost like the greatest story never told about how these CPG companies and Better Living Through Chemistry just duped us into thinking we needed all this stuff in order to live. And now we're realizing everyone's got cancer and everyone's sick, and we're trying to fix it. And, the degree to which this stuff has gotten over the castle wall and is already in our lives, it's kind of sickening. And I know you and I have a lot in common with that line of thought, right?
No doubt.
You are in the business now of good, clean, and green products. How'd you end up in this?
Well, it wasn't a straight line for sure. It was definitely a serendipitous path. But the story started for me just about a little under 18 years ago when my oldest son was an infant, broke out in this horrific rash. He was only a few weeks old. It looked like we dunked him literally like in boiling water. And now we have 5 kids, but when your firstborn child, if anybody's a firstborn parent, everything's a really big deal. And now if everyone's breathing and no one's bleeding, it's fine. But when it's your first kid, like everything's like a really big deal. So I was trying to go to the first baths and I'm getting him undressed, Benjamin. It looked like, again, he was like these bloody, streaky, like rash. And I'm like, oh my gosh, looked like I dunked him in boiling water. And, I called over my wife, and when I saw her freak out, and she was a nurse. So I saw when my nurse wife freaked out, I freaked out even more. And straight to the pediatrician, then to a dermatologist. And then on the way to the pharmacy, and a friend of the family called and asked me a question that changed my life. Asked me what I was using for laundry detergent. And I was like, I'm not here to talk about laundry. I mean, like, my son's sick. There's no, like, kids can have like an allergic reaction to these chemicals. You shouldn't be using the store-bought stuff that you get from the. And I'm like, really? So we took all of his clothes, threw it in the bathtub with hot water and like this homemade concoction of, like borax and vinegar and all this homemade eco stuff. And the next day he was pretty much fine. And so that set me on my journey. So I became a full-blown eco conspiracy theorist 18 years ago. And I was in the restaurant business at the time, moved to Michigan from New York City, met this really cool grandma selling soap at the farmer's market, looking for an investor. That was 2012. And, what started off with, 3 of us, a concrete mixer from Harbor Freight, mixing soap. I built the website, and I used to bring the orders to the post office in the back of the car. Has really become a movement. And, Truly Free is now, one of, if not the largest non-toxic chemical manufacturer in the country. And we've really started, again, a large scale change in an industry that just needed it. So that was my story, man. And, I still tap dance into work every day and still on mission.
Love it. There are so many of those stories, and you're right. The first kid, anything that happens is terrifying, but I'm glad it happened to your first kid, right? Because it mobilized you. But it is incredibly scary when the chemicals get your baby. And I found for our generation, we usually get a pill thrown at us, take a Benadryl, do this, take an Advil, you'll be fine. You're just getting old. And, the medical system is doing a really good job of covering up for the chemical industry and passing us back and forth as customers. But what happens to our kids, it's like, oh, hell no. And we get really, really mobilized. And I've seen this with the content that I've done from Origins all the way through to the recent one, Homesick Home, where it's moms and dads, it's that mama bear, papa bear energy that really activates people to be like, this can't be right. And they jump in and they start looking at the fakes. And so you start off on detergent, also you're like, oh no, now it's dish soap, now it's this, now it's just how much of this crap has permeated into our day-to-day. And the extent of which we are now consumers of these poisons, haplessly buying this stuff with our hard-earned dollars, just blows my mind.
I'd like to say it's criminal, but it's not, because there's no laws that govern this stuff, right? It's immoral for sure. there's so many studies now that have been done out of some, major, hospitals, and they found like there's over 200 household product chemicals in the umbilical cord blood of healthy born children, right? So whether they're from, breathing it in, topical use, whatever, I mean, these household chemicals are making our way into the human genome, and it's frightening. And in the EU, there are over 12,000 chemicals that are banned from manufacturing, import, export, use in products, cannot be used. In the US, there's 14. So it's just a very dangerous place. The supermarket, grocery aisles of cleaning products is a very dangerous place. It's not as dangerous in Europe, but it is really dangerous here.
Yeah. But look, capitalism has some beautiful things. I know you're an advocate for, free market and a lot of stuff that you're doing with coins and conscious capital. And I want to get into that because I love what you're doing on that side. But there's also the ungoverned cowboy capitalism that has allowed special interests to do whatever the hell they want and avoid labeling and avoid being legislated against in this space. And that has led to a huge industry of not just toxic chemicals, but then also detox clinics and doctors trying to fix it. And it's just like this stupid hamster wheel that we're all on because we're busy poisoning ourselves and then busy trying to get well from having poisoned ourselves. And so you have spent a fair amount of time now on the solution side to try to help people out of this mess. When you start hearing from customers who just change their soap, just the stuff that you think is trite, after a few months of which you start to, I know you get customer service. I know you get people sending you love letters. What do you hear? How quickly do they start telling you, oh my God, I didn't believe it at first, but ...
Tens of thousands. We have over 500,000 families that we serve currently at trulyfreehome.com. And so many families from my child had this type of reaction when I would go to the supermarket, when I would go to the perfume aisle at the mall, I'd get this, I'd feel that. And switching to Truly Free, that's no longer there. I mean, I don't even know how many of those people have said things like that over the years. It's humbling. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, it's fuel, right? Because building a business, especially we've done it bootstrapping, it's hard. But when we see the impact that we've had on people's lives, mission work, and knowing that we are literally leaving people better than we found them, it's like that the reserve tank of fuel when the light goes on, you don't know how you're going to get to the next gas station, but you get there. That's what, that mission and purpose is for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost not fair. The economy in which we operate against the big CPG companies that happen to also be backed by the biggest banks, the biggest insurance companies, the biggest everything, billions and billions of dollars thrown at inefficient airways to convince people that, this product or, the smell that you want on your shirt when you walk out, wherever that is. And then here you are scrapping your way up, trying to find, markets for people who don't even understand this space. And Dylan, I've been on the propaganda side for the good guys for a minute now, right? Just like, hey, do you realize that these chemicals make you sick? Do you realize that, autism's up? These stories are not conventional. So swimming upstream, when you get the aha moment from a mom, a dad, busy consumer, what does it take? Like, how are you getting this message across to finally get people to say, oh, yes, this is what I need to do?
It used to be really hard. When I invented years ago refillable cleaning products, convincing people that they can just get an empty laundry jug or spray bottle in the mail and get a refill was hard enough. And then doing that while telling people, by the way, do you know the stuff at the store has all these things in them and they could be doing this to you and you should switch to something that's safer. So, there's the old adage in marketing, and it says, the first guy through the door usually gets shot. And I spent half a decade literally like just getting shot at because, people look at me like, non-toxic? Why is that important? Refillable? Why is that important? oh, there's plastic floating in the ocean, really? And now, over a decade later, we've now become the cool kids, right? And we're very vogue, where before we were on the bleeding edge and totally irrelevant. So it's become much easier because I think there's been because of work like yours, right? And so many of your peers that have been part of this really like great awakening of true health and wellness, that health and wellness doesn't start with a lab coat and a stethoscope. It starts within you. And that's been a paradigm. That was the way it used to be. It left the building. It's now coming back in the building because of, thought leaders like you and others, that it's become way easier to say, hey, by the way, while you're on this detox journey, because of this bucket that you've been filled up with, we can't solve all that for you, right? We can't detox the heavy metals. We can't, like, all the stuff that's happening in your body. We don't know how to do. That's not our gift. There are plenty of doctors and thought leaders and the detox clinics, this hamster wheel of wellness apparatus to help you. But we have this one thing, right, that we do here that will just take this one burden off of you. Because you got to clean your clothes. You got to wipe down the countertops. You got to clean your windows. You should clean your stove once in a while, et cetera, et cetera. And you should do so with peace of mind that you're not while you're on this journey, you're not introducing any more stuff that needs to come out of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's just resonated with so many families at this point. And so many people feel betrayed because, we've been the weird people from the jump that disclose every single ingredient on a label where we don't have to, right? Like legally, we don't have to. If a product in the US, there's 1% concentration of an ingredient in a finished good, the company doesn't have to list on the label, right? You could have 5,000 ingredients. And if anything's under what, you can just list it as perfume or fragrance and it's trademark secret. No one needs to know. You don't even have to declare it on an MSDS sheet. You don't even have to declare it. Forget about a label. And we've shipped millions of products out of this building. No one's ever knocked on our door to say, hey, can you show me what's in the label really is in there? Never, right? So it's a very unregulated industry. And like you said earlier, I am a capitalist. I believe in the free market. With this crony capitalism thing where large corporations could buy their legislation, it's a little scary, right? There are great companies out there, Pedram. We're not the only one. There's a lot of great brands, really great companies that are trying to do good. And we want to celebrate and help those people because that's how we create change. But to the brands and the companies that are, putting toxic sewage on our children in the auspice of it smells good and it gets your white's white and your bright's bright. I mean, so I came to a point early on where I knew that this was not going to change through legislation. It had to be changed at the consumer. It had to be changed from the pocketbooks of people voting differently with their dollars. And now we're seeing that happen. And it's great because companies are pivoting and the raw ingredient, the supply chain is changing, right? There's a lot of innovation that's happening in clean tech and green tech because there's there's actually a market there. Look, there's proof. Like there are consumers that are like, hey, this is what I want. So the entire supply chain globally is moving in our direction because that's what consumers are flocking to. And change is happening. And it's really exciting. In the early days, I said, hey, one day. And now we're actually at that day. And it's very, very exciting.
Talk to me about the greenwashing. There's a lot of consumers that will take the first bite of the apple and then they'll say, oh, well, this brand says they're healthy. It's good enough. And I've seen so many people get duped on their way out of prison, right? And end up becoming consumers of brands that either got rolled up and bought by some big CPG company that's not playing by the right rules, or they're just downright lying about that. So what is a consumer supposed to look for? How are our listeners supposed to be better informed about what is okay for their bodies?
It's a great question. So here's my thoughts. This greenwashing is not new, right? Like what's an all natural chicken? I guess if it walked and it clucked as a chicken, it must be natural. The challenge with the space that we're in, this chemical clean space, is there's so much confusion. And we have a populace of folks that have gotten their PhDs from Google and the EWG and other bodies. And there's so much contradicting information that it leaves the consumer bizarrely overwhelmed. For example, if you ask one group of people, hey, is lavender essential oil a good thing? That one group of people, you should be dousing it on your pillow, putting it behind your ears. You should be putting lavender essential oil everywhere you possibly can. Take that same, ask another group of people, it's a hormone disruptor, it's an endocrine disruptor. The EWG says that it inhibits testosterone. It does all these dangerous things to the human genome. Which one's true? This all natural plant derives organic, volatile organic compound, or is it dangerous? That's just one microcosm of a much bigger story. And my position has always been that if it's not safe enough to put on our kids, we're not going to put on yours. So that's like our guiding principle. And no one holds our products to a higher standard than me. We've taken a position of unadulterated transparency and let the consumer do whatever they can, whatever they feel right to them, to make the best decision for their families. And there are brands that quote unquote greenwash. And to me, this is what my definition of greenwashing is. You claim to be green, you claim to be eco, and yet you don't disclose what you're actually doing. That's a problem, right? That's the real problem. Because I think the eco green movement is more than just ingredients. There also has to be corporate transparency end to end. And that is dramatically lacking in our industry, mostly because you don't have to be transparent. We've been the weird people that have from right out of the gate. And then you take governing bodies like the EWG, who has done some amazing work, right? EWG is a great organization, but you could see how they've had to learn and pivot over the years, right? They claim certain ingredients to be super dangerous in the clean world, but they're safe in cosmetic use. So I can nerd out and give you a list of 30 ingredients today that have in the EWG Clean Safe a rating of 3, 4, 5, 5 being like stay away, skull and crossbones, but it's a 0 or a 1 in use in cosmetics. So wait a second. So it's safe for you to put on your face, but it's not safe for you to spray on your toilet when you clean your toilet. That makes as much sense as a pork chop in a synagogue. Like that just makes no freaking sense. But they're adapting, right? Because at the speed of chemical innovation, the EWG is trying to adapt. So there was a test done and it killed some goldfish, so it must be toxic. But it's okay in cosmetics. And the unfortunate part is because the EWG is trying to keep up with what's good, not good, safe with very limited studies. People that are trying to find out, should I bring this product into my house, are following that same evolution of confusion. Mix that with Google, and you have all the marketers that are doing ranking SEO keywords on what's safe, not safe, and chemical manufacturing companies. So I feel for the consumer, right? It's hard to make good decisions these days. And it just comes down to, making the best decision that you can at that moment for your family. Anyway, that's a long-winded answer of what's greenwashing. It's been here forever, right? Marketers will be marketers. And, years ago, like I said, when I found out that laundry soap made my child sick, I don't think these big companies are really trying to hurt us, right? They're just trying to sell us, right? These big mega corporate chemical they're not trying to exterminate the human race. They're trying to monetize it. So what do consumers want? They want brighter brights and whiter whites. They want their clothes to smell good. Well, so they want to make margin, provide the efficacy. And if it hurts a human or not, we'll worry about that later. We've taken a completely adverse approach to that, right? It has to hit certain safety standards for us to even think about it. It has to perform as good or better than the blue goo, the toxic stuff. And if we could make some margin in here so we can hire people and grow, hey, we'll do that. So we've taken a completely opposite approach. There are some brands that have taken a different approach. right? It's like, hey, we want to have the safest products available. We want to make the most money possible. And if it works or doesn't work, whatever. So that's where the green industry has gotten a bad rap, because so many green companies make very expensive products that just don't work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the consumer's losing there too. So that's how we prioritized our research and development, and how we do it. We do it truly free.
There's also this other sort of dark corner of the universe, which is research and science for sale, and people funding studies that serve their interest and people not funding studies to prove the efficacy of, say, lavender, right? Because there's really less margin in that, and you can't really patent lavender. It's nature's creation. And so there are a lot of stories to be told around what gets funded. Even in research institutions, you go to a big university and you're like, hey, I got a study that I'm going to fund. I got $10 million over here. Who wants their department to grow? We're all just mice looking for cheese. And so these researchers are also, they got to get their stuff funded. So the research goes where the money flows. And if you could lower COGS and sell stuff for less COGS and more profit, it also leads to the science driving some of this narrative and away from where, let's say, EWG doesn't have access to studies on this because no one's doing it, right? No one's doing these things.
And if they are, they're doing it in these very vacuum-driven environments. But when you add chemical A with chemical B together, it's called chemistry. You have a whole new chemical. What's the effect of that on the human? It's like it's mathematically impossible to know everything about everything. So it's tough. It's really tough.
Where are some of the areas, Stephen? Obviously, you started with detergent because that's what burned you literally and figuratively with your kid. Obviously, the plugins and the air fresheners and stuff that you read about most. But where are the big levers in what we're buying and what we're putting into our homes that you can see pivot to non-toxic pretty easily?
It's the two biggest consumables in the aisle. So if you think about, the supermarket typically has like two chemical aisles. You have the laundry aisle that has everything laundry, right? And then the other aisle has everything else. And that everything else is split in half. You have dish, auto dish powder, like for your dishwasher machine, dish soap, and then literally everything else from floor cleaners, window cleaners, hand soaps, everything else fits in one corner of the entire supermarket. The dishwasher and dish soap sits in half. The laundry aisle is a whole aisle. So work backwards from the things used the most. Laundry is the most important one. I always felt, still feel it, because if you bought your laundry detergent from the supermarket, there's a very good chance it's still on the fabrics. As you're listening to Pedro and I right now, those chemicals they're literally on you as you're listening to this, because most of the stuff at the store is chemically engineered to leave a film on your clothes for two main reasons, sometimes three. Number one reason is fragrance, so that it leaves a smell behind. Two, static removal is UV brightening, so that your clothes appear to be brighter under artificial lighting. So they're designed to leave a film. And while you're perspiring, living your life, you're rehydrating those chemicals that are left on your fabrics when you're sleeping, on your towels, when you come out of this hot shower, et cetera, and you're rubbing those chemicals right into your skin, right? And they come right into your bloodstream. So laundry is the most important one. You got to get that safe because you're literally wearing your clothes all day long. The second is dish. Very, very, very much overlooked. The dishwasher, very toxic place, very prone to mold and bacteria. Unlike a clothes dryer, your hot dryer that exhausts outside the house, your dishwasher exhausts inside to your kitchen. So if you're using toxic store-bought type dishwasher detergent, all of those chemicals are getting hyperheated and exhausted right into your kitchen. You're breathing these things in. Not only so, that squeaky clean, the beautiful hand that goes down the glass, those chemicals are designed also to leave a film, a sheen on your plates and glasses so that they're beautifully squeaky clean. When you add your hot cup of coffee, which is hot and acidic, rehydrating those detergents and those chemicals, you're drinking them in. Add your dish of food, hot, liquid, boom, you're ingesting these things. So to me, laundry and the dishwasher and the dish soap are the two areas that you're most prone to get either on you or in you the fastest.
Yeah, that's really interesting Pareto's principle of the aisles at the grocery store. I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah. And when it comes to these types of like plug-in type things for scents, those things are just, and again, we don't even know what they are. The ingredients are never listed. So we have no idea what's actually in them, right? Because what could smell like total toxic raw sewage in its raw state, when it gets distilled down and mixed with almond oil, may smell like potpourri. But we don't know that it's literally some petrochemical byproduct. We have no idea. So I'd like to say, oh yeah, stay away from this. But we have no idea because 99% of the products that we see on the shelf don't disclose what's in them. So we can't know.
We do know that volatile organic compounds are extremely harmful to human health. And we know that pretty much anything that has a scent is most likely being carried by a VOC. The VOCs are how we are smelling this stuff. So we know that if it smells, whether it's good or bad, and it is an unnatural smell, that is a volatile organic compound that is not good for us, that lodges in our fat cells and our brain cells. And there's really bad things on the doctor's side of the equation. So it's this programming that we think we have to make things smell good in order for us to feel clean, for us to not be judged by others. And so there's a lot of psychology that's gone into this that I think has to be decoupled from actual cleanliness and actual health. I'm assuming natural oils can be helpful, but then again, I've heard tons of things around how these oils are processed and how these oils are also mixed with synthetics and all this stuff. How do you even parse that dumpster fire of essential oils and the production of them?
Again, there's so much confusion. Our position has always been the largest populace of everyday consumer wants scent in their products. They want scent in their laundry. They want scent on their countertop. They want to smell something, because when we used to sell things with no scent in them, people would just never, they'd cancel, they'd leave. They said the products don't work. What do you mean? I'd have conversations with people. I'll tell you a quick story. Over a decade ago, when we were just getting started, when we only sold unscented products, people would call and cancel. I'm leaving. Why? My clothes aren't clean. Really? Is there a specific I'm learning? Is it a grass stain? Was it like spaghetti sauce? Was it mustard? What was it that was it a rayon? Was it cotton? What was it that didn't come off? And people say, oh, no, the stains are coming off just fine, but the clothes just are not clean. I'm like, well, do they feel scratchy? Are they soft? Oh, they're soft. It feels really nice. I said, so what is it? And would literally distill down to one thing. It just doesn't smell good. And so we'd have to add scent to the fat products, or we're just going out of business. And I was fighting it like the plague. We're not going to do this. So I said, I need to prove to myself. So I went to Bed Bath & Beyond. This is again over a decade ago when Bed Bath & Beyond was still in business. I bought a couple beautiful white, brand new Egyptian cotton towels. I went down the street to the local Meijer, right? It was a big supermarket here in Northern Michigan. And I bought the two leading fabric softener and detergent, put them in a spray bottle. And I walked outside Bed Bath & Beyond the market, and I rubbed one of the towels on the side of my vehicle. So they had noticeably like gray and black stains. So it was a stained rag that I sprayed with the leading detergent and fabric softener. And I had the brand new white thing that literally is like, you can't get any brighter white. And I put on my lab coat, I put on my hat, and I went to the mall and I said, we're doing a quick survey today. Just let me know which one you think is cleaner. And guess how many people out of 10, I surveyed over 800 people in 2 days. How many people chose what?
Stop. This actually hurts my brain. So you're saying the people that saw the visibly dirty towel, but it smelled good, thought that it was cleaner than the clean towel visually?
8.2 people out of 10 chose the dirty rag.
82% of the people, 800 people you surveyed, thought the dirty rag was cleaner just because of the smell.
82%. So then I was so, Pedram, I was like mind screwed. I'm like, this can't be. So here's what I did. I said, you know what? Here's a problem. These aren't my people. So I went to Oriana, which is my favorite store. Amy and I shot. It's the local co-op. There's Subaru. Everyone's driving Subarus. There's a big granola aisle. Like, these are my people. Like, these are crunchy eco people. And 7 out of 10 of my people chose the dirty rag. That's when I knew I was going to lose. That if we did not add a sensory experience to our products, we were absolutely doomed. And that's because the people have been completely conditioned through their nose that products are efficacious through their nose, period, the end. You go to the supermarket, they're pumping in fragrance. You go to restaurants, they're pumping in fragrance. Wherever you go, people are pumping in fragrance in order to trick you into believing what they want you to believe. Okay. So we decided, we're going to add scents. And we've been on the cutting edge of green chemistry when it comes to scents, whether using essential oils or nature identical plant-based fragrance oils. We've always been and continue to innovate, re-innovate, to be on the cutting edge, because there's so much innovation that's happened in the natural category in the last decade. But if it wasn't for scents, Truly Free would have been I would have been a memory a long time ago. I'd be waiting tables again at restaurants.
How did you ever look into the history of this? I mean, so the olfactory is kind of our oldest sensory array. Danger, fear, animal stuff hits the brain quickest. Was there some sort of intercept for, smell equals clean that was programmed?
No.
Or
smell equals royalty.
Those stinky French aristocrats being able to not smell.
Even prior to that, like, we're talking about like India, ancient Israel, Egypt, like, so oils, fragrances, frankincense, incense, myrrh, like these scents were a sign of royalty. So if you smelled, right, like frankincense, it was a status symbol. You had royalty. So this programming that is literally deep into our DNA goes way back before the Fleschner report, right? This goes way back.
So, but we're talking about human society stuff, not biological stuff, or maybe a combo of the two.
Maybe a combo of the two, but then what happened, you have the synthetic industry. It's like, hey, how do we create bioidentical hormone replicating smells to replicate sex pheromones so that we could put that in colognes so that people are attracted to have sexual attraction based on smells? That's a whole other story. So it started off with royalty, right? Royalty smelled like something. And now it's everything. Everything is smell. There's a great documentary called Stink. I've never seen that documentary I think it came out in 2015. Brilliant documentary exposing the chemical industry, really the fragrance industry. It's scary stuff, Pedram, but that's where we are as a society. But people are waking up, man. There's hope. There is hope that people are waking up, and there's so many great brands, great innovators, entrepreneurs in the cosmetic space, the perfume, cologne space that are like really on the cutting edge of green chemistry that are trying to do good by people. So I'm very hopeful. It's still crappy out there, but I'm very hopeful. The tides are changing.
Yeah. And listen, it's partially because you have held the line, right? There are guys like you that are out there doing it. There's a lot of storytellers telling these stories. There's a lot of frontline people. I gave your stuff to my mom. I didn't say anything. I was just like, hey, try this. I really like this. And I just wanted to hear the volume of the complaints about migraines. And after about 3 months, they're reduced by about 80%. Right? Why? It's the crap that had made it into her house. It's the pantry, it's the laundry. There's all these things that we don't think about. And that, I think, is very, very dangerous, having things under the radar, especially under your roof. So laundry, obviously, dishwashing, obviously, other cleaners. I mean, you think, oh, well, pandemic hit, everything was bleach and, nuke everything. You really need to sanitize a kitchen counter. What do you really need to clean a floor? Like, how nasty do you got to get with these bugs?
So again, I'm no pathologist, But here's what I do know is that viruses, bacteria, one, they can't be exposed to air. They can't be exposed to air and sunlight for any length of time and live. They can't operate in a high pH environment. So, regular hand soap kills just as many germs as hand sanitizer. The only difference is, and I've learned so much from you over the years about microbiome, right? And there's a microbiome. Think about like sanitizers. One, the hand sanitizer came out as a failed experiment in the candle making industry, right? It was a failed experiment trying to make gel candles. What do we do with this thing? Oh, it could be used like this. And then it became the hand sanitizer that we know today. Those sanitizers don't discriminately kill the bad bugs. They don't just say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go after this. I'm going to go after salmonella today because that's what's here. Or I'm going to go after, COVID if people know how to isolate that thing, like, et cetera, et cetera. They indiscriminately kill everything. So all the beneficial bacteria, like how many different bacteria do we have on ours? More than billions of bacteria, right, that are on us. Well, these things don't just sniper the bad stuff. They kill everything. So we got into a sanitizing culture years ago. Everything needs to be completely napalmed and nuked. We got sicker. People got sicker. Why? Because your immune system's compromised. You're dousing yourself with things that are killing what God put there to make you safe. So we never sold sanitizers. I could have bought 5 houses and a new car every month during the pandemic if I sold sanitizer. And I refused to. I'm glad it's cool that a bunch of distilleries and breweries did, because they were at it because the world told them that they were not essential. So you can go to Walmart, but you can't go to a restaurant. So restaurants turned into sanitizing making facilities to stay alive and keep their employees working. Hey, like Mazel Tov.
Fine. Yeah.
But I just knew too much, so I refused to make it.
Yeah, and the wholesale slaughter of the microbiome is a whole tragic story on its own. But we have now learned that our coexistence, not just under our own roofs, but our gardens and outside, it has a lot to do with our priming of our immune system and the healthy interaction with our environment. And that translates very clearly into how we interact with our countertops, our toilets, our laundry, and all of it is not nuking everything to the point where we're covered in chemical soup, where we are choking out the life around us. And so there's a whole conversation around synthetics and plastics and what we wear versus natural grain cottons and the things that can breathe and the things that come from the earth. And I'm sure you see this, the laundry water. There's all these stories about all shit in the water because you buy some sports shirt from Nike and run it through the wash. The fish are drinking that next week.
So true. And now the light's being shined on synthetic fabrics and what people are wearing. But what's not even talked about yet, which people need to be waking up to, is all the flame retardant chemicals that are also being sprayed on these garments, right? We're talking about wicked chemicals that are put on fabrics. Fabrics that are coming out of big textile mills, they're being misted with UV brighteners. Why? Because when you're at the supermarket or at the mall under UV light, they look like really bright, beautiful clothes. No, it's an optical illusion. They're being sprayed with under some bizarre ruling. And it was a really fascinating war between the tobacco industry, because people were falling asleep with cigarettes in their hands and burning their houses down. So the cigarette industry was putting out self-extinguishing cigarettes, but it altered the taste, so people weren't buying cigarettes. The tobacco industry went to legislation, then asked textiles to spray flame retardant chemicals on your carpets, on your couches, on your fabrics. And none of that crap is disclosed to the end consumer. So, sure, we have plastic-derived fabrics, but they're being doused with these forever chemicals and we even tried, how do you get these things off? Like, how do you get these flame retardant chemicals off the fabrics? The cure is worse than the disease. We'd have to add such you'd have to use such bizarrely toxic solvents to get those chemicals off. It's like, well, the squeeze is not worth the juice. You can't actually help people because they're designed to stay there wash after wash. So it requires people just waking up and say, you know what? I'm not going to buy that couch. I'm not going to buy that carpet. I'm not going to buy those clothes. I'm not buying those cleaning products. I'm only going to buy the ones that I believe in. And the more that people wake up and change their buying behavior, markets will change. It's not going to change in Washington. It will not change there. There's too many rich men north of Richmond that are part of the problem. But if markets change, it doesn't matter what gets legislated. The consumer will decide.
Yeah. And we've seen it time and again. That's why you exist, right? So my films have carried me to where I'm at in life, right? It's because people go, aha. A quick aside on the story that you opened with is the Association of Firefighters came out and said, we don't want this crap on those sofas either, because our firefighters going in to stop these fires are dying of cancer and getting really sick. So the only person that really wants that is the chemical industry, and it's become a mandated, legislated piece of the manufacturing process because hippies used to fall asleep with cigarettes in the 70s, and now we all have flame retardant chemicals in our living rooms. So yeah, it's a really funny, tragic, sad tale. And if you believe they were building a Death Star, you have a lot of evidence to prove that maybe you're right. But Steven's stance on this is, look, they're just trying to make money and bring their cogs down. And that is a perfectly reasonable stance as well. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know as a physician that people are getting really, really sick from all this crap. And we have a saying in martial arts, I say it all the time, you stand in the ring long enough, you're going to get punched in the face. Stop buying the garbage. Stop bringing it into your home. 2 months, 3 months, a year later, your toxic burden, the load inside of your own cellular machinery has lessened, and your detox pathways have cleared some of the gunk. You're thinking better. You are on the right side of healing. And I cannot emphasize how important it is. I don't care how much you think your detox shake or your smoothie or what your functional medicine doctor puts you on does the job. If you go repoison yourself tomorrow, you're on the hamster wheel. And so that's where I really appreciate what you're doing, Steven. I really appreciate the stance that you've taken on this. And frankly, the fight that you've been fighting for a long time. I knew you when your beard was a little less white.
I've earned every one of these white whiskers, brother. I tell you right now.
Guaranteed you have. Guaranteed you have. So I know you have a special offer for my folks. He came in and said he'll hook up your people with some things. We're on the podcast. Tell them what they would get. I'll put a link into the podcast and, just try the stuff. This was my thing. My wife is a little bit more on the conventional side. Like she's like, oh, what is this hippie stuff? And I was like, just try this. And my wife swung around and she loves it. She doesn't buy any crap anymore. And so you swung my wife and she's very happy with it. And we don't have any chemicals coming into the house on that front. They'd probably drag it in on our feet. You still, but what do you got for my people? How can we help them make the transition?
Well, to me, we want to earn trust. Let us prove that our products will perform as good as the toxic blue goo or better. So we'll give it to you for free. So there's some free products when you join of different packages. Just click the link. It's only available because of this podcast and because of Dr. Pedram's work. So click the link in the description, get some free stuff. There's a couple different options you could choose from on the other side of the link, and we'll earn your trust. And if you're not happy, whatever you buy, I'll give you money back.
Love it. Love it. Man, I've always appreciated your take on things, your stance on life and the way you roll. It's just very gentlemanly. It's very honorable. I know you're big. We should do a whole other podcast on conscious capitalism and the implications of voting with your dollars and where the world goes when everyone just starts doing that. But you are living proof that works because people have been doing that in your direction, and thank God, right? Like you have a lot of employees and you are feeding a lot of families through these efforts, which is growing, I think, a good thing on planet Earth. So I really appreciate the fact that you've scrapped your way up and been doing this for so long. I'll put a link into the show notes, and I'm a big fan of what we're doing. I really think that with these small changes, we see really big results over time. And the thing about these consumables is, look, you're going to need laundry detergent. It's not next week, next month. So next time you do it, get something that's less poisonous. And next time you swap out your dish thing and your whatever, and just slowly start doing the things, replacing the things that are poisonous with things that are less poisonous or not poisonous, you start to see an accretive effect. You start to see things change, and you can just spend your money with the good guys.
So good. Well, I appreciate your time, man. Listen, the world needs more of you out there. You know, your impact is way broader than your community. You've inspired a lot of people to go get their voice heard, and change is happening because of people like you, man. So keep it up.
Appreciate it, brother. Keep up the good work. I'll have you back for a Conscious Capital show in the coming months. I got a lot to say about that and trying to push conscious capitalism into the world. So we'll do a second show on that.
No doubt. Sounds great. I will talk soon, man. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.